Ethan Cole had exactly $43 left in his bank account when he noticed a strange advertisement pinned to a crowded bulletin board inside a quiet neighborhood cafe. Between flyers for guitar lessons, apartment rentals, and part-time jobs was a neatly typed piece of paper that read, "Seeking a temporary husband for a strictly legal arrangement. Compensation, $50,000. Serious applicants only." He stared at it for several seconds before laughing under his breath. "Who would believe this?" he muttered. It had to be a prank. No sane person would offer $50,000 to a complete stranger just to become a husband on paper. Yet something about the ad felt oddly professional. There was no colorful design or exaggerated promise, just a phone number at the bottom. Normally, Ethan would have walked away, but life had stopped being normal months ago. 3 months earlier, the construction company where he had worked for nearly 6 years had suddenly shut down after declaring bankruptcy. Since then, every job interview had ended the same way. "We'll call you." No one ever did. His rent was overdue. His truck payments were 2 months behind. The electricity bill sat unopened on the kitchen table because he already knew he couldn't afford it. Worst of all, his younger sister Emma depended on him to help pay for college. Their parents had passed away years earlier, and Ethan had promised himself she would never have to abandon her dreams because of money. That promise was becoming impossible to keep. After a long moment, he pulled out his phone and saved the number. The following afternoon, curiosity and desperation led him to an elegant office building in the center of the city. The marble floors gleamed beneath crystal lights, and everyone around him wore expensive suits. Ethan suddenly felt out of place in his faded jeans and worn jacket. A receptionist greeted him with a polite smile. "Mr. Cole? Ms. Lawson is expecting you." She escorted him to the top floor, where a spacious office overlooked the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. Behind a sleek wooden desk sat a woman in a navy blue business suit. She appeared to be around 30 years old. Her posture was perfect, and her expression was calm, though there was a hint of exhaustion in her eyes. She stood and extended her hand. "I'm Victoria Lawson. Ethan Cole." She gestured toward a chair. "Please sit." The silence that followed felt strangely formal. Finally, Ethan asked the only question on his mind. "The advertisement wasn't a joke?" Victoria shook her head. "No. You really intend to pay someone $50,000? If they meet my requirements." She slid a thick contract across the desk. "I need someone willing to legally marry me for exactly 1 year." Ethan blinked several times. "Why would anyone need that?" Victoria folded her hands neatly. "My grandfather is the founder of Lawson International." Even Ethan recognized the name. Lawson International was one of the country's largest business empires, worth billions of dollars. "My grandfather believes families should control the company," she explained. "According to his legal agreement, I cannot inherit the position of CEO unless I'm married before my 31st birthday. When is your birthday?" 12 days from now." Ethan leaned back in disbelief. "So you don't need a real husband?" "I need a legal one." "No romance?" "None." "No expectations?" "None." "Then why not ask a friend?" For the first time, Victoria hesitated. "I don't trust anyone close to me." Her answer carried more sadness than she intended to reveal. She pushed the contract closer. "You'll receive $25,000 immediately after the wedding, and the remaining $25,000 after 12 months, provided every condition of the agreement is fulfilled." Ethan slowly flipped through the pages. Most of the rules seemed reasonable. Attend family gatherings. Appear as a happily married couple in public. Maintain confidentiality regarding company matters. Avoid dating anyone else during the agreement. Then he reached clause number 7. His eyebrows rose. "You can't be serious." Victoria met his gaze without flinching. "I am." The clause clearly stated that both parties must live together in the same bedroom and share the same bed whenever they were at the primary residence. Ethan looked up in disbelief. "I thought this was supposed to be a fake marriage." "It is." "Then why would we have to share a bed?" "My grandfather has exposed fake marriages before," Victoria replied. "He hires private investigators. They question staff, inspect guest rooms, and look for any sign that a couple isn't genuinely living together. So if I sleep in another room, he'll know. And you'll lose everything." "Yes." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. This might be the strangest job offer in history. A faint smile crossed Victoria's face. "I've heard that before," she continued calmly. "There will be clear boundaries, separate blankets, mutual respect, no physical relationship, no emotional expectations. This is simply a business arrangement." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Ethan noticed the expensive office, the awards on the wall, and the breathtaking city view. Yet despite all the wealth surrounding her, Victoria looked lonely. Not cold, not arrogant, just alone. "I need time to think," he finally said. "Of course." That evening, Ethan visited Emma at the community college library. She smiled when she saw him, though she immediately noticed the worry on his face. "Tough day?" she asked. "You could say that." He almost told her everything but stopped himself. Instead, he asked, "If someone offered you $50,000 for 1 year of your life, would you accept?" Emma smiled thoughtfully. "I'd first ask what I'd have to sacrifice." Her words echoed in his mind all night. The following morning, an eviction notice appeared on his apartment door. Minutes later, the bank called to warn him that his truck would soon be repossessed. By afternoon, Ethan knew he had run out of choices. He returned to Victoria's office. She silently placed the contract in front of him. Without another question, he picked up the pen and signed his name. Victoria signed beneath his. Then she handed him a cashier's check for $25,000. "Congratulations," she said quietly. "You're now my husband." Ethan looked at the check, then at the woman sitting across from him. "When's the wedding?" Victoria glanced at her calendar. "Tomorrow morning." His eyes widened. "Tomorrow?" She nodded. "The sooner we're married, the sooner everyone stops trying to take everything I've spent my life protecting." As Ethan left the office with the contract in one hand and the check in the other, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just stepped into a life far more complicated than he had imagined. The wedding took place the very next afternoon in a private courthouse, far from the grand celebrations Ethan had imagined weddings were supposed to have. There were no flowers, no orchestra, and no joyful crowd cheering as the couple exchanged vows. Only a judge, 2 lawyers, a notary, and a few silent witnesses stood inside the elegant courtroom. Victoria wore a simple ivory dress that reflected her quiet personality rather than her enormous wealth, while Ethan wore a tailored black suit that had been delivered to his apartment that morning. Everything had been arranged so quickly that he barely had time to process what was happening. When the judge finally declared them husband and wife, Victoria politely shook Ethan's hand instead of hugging him. The gesture almost made him laugh, but he managed to keep a straight face. Their marriage had begun like a business partnership, not a love story. Outside the courthouse, however, reality hit them immediately. Dozens of reporters surrounded them, cameras flashing from every direction. "Mrs. Lawson, how long have you been dating? Mr. Cole, where did you propose? When did you know she was the one?" Ethan froze. Before he could say something that would expose them, Victoria gently slipped her hand into his and smiled confidently. We've always preferred keeping our relationship private, she answered gracefully. Thank you for respecting that. She looked at Ethan with such warmth that even he almost believed they were genuinely in love. After escaping the reporters, they drove to the Lawson estate. The mansion was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Iron gates opened onto a long driveway lined with perfectly trimmed gardens and marble fountains. The enormous house stood proudly at the top of a small hill, looking more like a palace than a family home. Inside, dozens of staff members welcomed Victoria. Welcome home, Mrs. Lawson. Congratulations, ma'am. They greeted Ethan respectfully as Mr. Lawson, a title that still sounded strange to him. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Grant, escorted them upstairs before opening a pair of large wooden doors. This is your suite. Ethan stepped inside and stared in amazement. The bedroom alone was larger than his entire apartment. A fireplace warmed one side of the room, while floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked beautifully landscaped gardens. At the center stood a luxurious king-sized bed. Only one. Mrs. Grant smiled politely before leaving them alone. Victoria placed a folder on the bedside table. I've prepared a few guidelines. Ethan opened it. Inside were neatly printed pages explaining everything from closet space to bathroom schedules and morning routines. You planned all this? He asked. I like organization. He smiled. I noticed. Victoria walked to a drawer, removed a roll of blue painter's tape, and stretched a perfectly straight line down the middle of the mattress. There. Ethan blinked. What exactly is that? The boundary. You stay on your side. I stay on mine. He laughed to spite himself. This may be the only marriage in history with official bed borders. For the first time, Victoria laughed too. It was soft and genuine, lasting only a moment, but it completely transformed her serious expression. That night neither of them slept very well. Every time Ethan rolled over, he worried he might accidentally cross the invisible line. Victoria remained perfectly still, as though afraid even to breathe too loudly. Around 2 in the morning, Ethan whispered into the darkness. Are you awake? Yes. This tape is making me more nervous than sharing the bed. A quiet laugh escaped Victoria. I was thinking the same thing. She peeled the tape off the mattress and tossed it into the trash. I suppose we can trust each other. The room suddenly felt less awkward. The following days were filled with lessons. Victoria taught Ethan everything he needed to know about the Lawson family. My Uncle Richard will smile while trying to embarrass you. My cousin Olivia enjoys asking personal questions. My grandfather notices everything. She even handed Ethan a notebook containing birthdays, favorite foods, family traditions, and important names. Study this, she said. It may save us. A few evenings later, the entire Lawson family gathered for dinner. Henry Lawson, the 82-year-old founder of the company, sat proudly at the head of the table. Despite his age, his sharp eyes missed nothing. He observed Ethan throughout the meal before suddenly asking, Tell me, Ethan, what does Victoria do whenever she can't sleep? The table fell silent. Ethan had no idea. Before he could answer, Victoria quietly said, I usually read. Henry smiled. No. He looked directly at Ethan. She reorganizes her bookshelves. Then he added, A husband should know that. Richard smirked confidently, clearly hoping Ethan would fail. Instead, Ethan smiled honestly. We've only been married a few days, sir. I'm still learning all the little things that make your granddaughter who she is. Henry studied him for several long seconds before slowly nodding. Fair answer. Dinner continued, but Ethan realized every family gathering would be another examination. As the weeks passed, he and Victoria became surprisingly comfortable around each other. She always forgot to eat breakfast before rushing to work, so Ethan started making coffee and toast every morning. Without saying anything, she began leaving homemade lunches in the refrigerator whenever she knew he'd be busy. Neither of them acknowledged these thoughtful gestures. They simply became part of everyday life. One stormy evening, lightning struck nearby, and the entire mansion suddenly lost power. The house disappeared into darkness. A loud crash of thunder echoed outside. Instinctively, Victoria grabbed Ethan's arm. The moment she realized what she'd done, she quickly stepped back. "I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize. I've hated thunderstorms ever since my parents died in a car accident during one." Her voice was barely above a whisper. Ethan didn't know what to say. Instead, he found a candle, lit it, and placed it between them. They spent the next 2 hours talking, not about the contract or the company, but about childhood memories, favorite books, embarrassing moments, and dreams they had never shared with anyone else. For the first time, Ethan saw the real Victoria beneath the polished businesswoman. She wasn't distant because she lacked emotions. She had simply spent years hiding them. And as the candlelight flickered across the room, both of them began to realize something neither had expected when they signed that contract. The fake marriage was slowly becoming the most genuine relationship either of them had ever known.